safety. Those are the two priority responsibilities of the Med Waiver. And remember, this is an alternative to institutional level of care. So one of the things that I see many folks do is they average out the behaviors, for instance. So let's use epilepsy as an example. One day you have a grand mal seizure, it's serious as can be, you end up in the emergency room. The other 5 days, 6 days of the week, you might have a couple of petit mal seizures or no seizures at all. Well, if you average the week, not too bad. Everything's doing pretty good. But on a bad day,
Yeah.
child almost dies. So you base it not on the average, but you don't get a parachute that's the average size. You get a parachute that fits your body weight. Otherwise, you might be sadly disappointed on the way down.
Yep.
Okay,
Like
well,
that.
we are at the 3:06 minutes, so I would like to get started. And before I do, every time we have our Zoom meeting, I first of all want to say thank you. Thank you for being here on a Friday afternoon with us. This is a parent-driven, parent-run advocacy group. We are not backed by any organization. It's just families, actually, just families talking to one another. Our group is called We the People, by the people, for all the people. And our mission is to unite families in every county, foster personal relationships and connections with our local legislators by sharing our compelling and personal stories. And by doing those things, we hope to bring positive change to our legislative session, which is about to take off. I do want to let everyone on the call know that we do record these meetings and we put them on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/for-all-the-people-Florida. And that way our friends that can't be here on the meeting can tune in at a later time and get caught up with what's going on. So, hello everyone. I've missed you. I feel like last Friday I was like a ball of nuts because we had just had that community forum and I was all wild. So I want to regroup and let you all know that we are really cruising into legislative session coming up March 4th. Our legislative sessions run 60 days. And prior to those sessions, we have legislative delegation meetings, which is a chance for citizens to go meet with your representatives and talk about the things, the concerns you have, and some solutions you may have to make positive changes here in Florida. We've had, I feel like, a lot of them. I can't even, last year I was able to keep up with all of them. Did anyone attend a delegation this week? Anyone on the call today? Okay, well, there are a few coming up. I know Sandy had said that she has one coming up on the 29th. And Sandy, did you want to talk to any of us about anything concerning your delegation? Any questions? Because I know this is your first one.
Yeah, how much do you put on your the heartfelt story part of it?
So, did you sign up to speak, or are you going to?
Yes, I signed up to speak.
Okay, did they give you a time frame?
I can't remember, it's 2 or 3 minutes.
Most of the time it's 2 or 3 minutes. So you really want your introduction to be very quick. My name's Sandy. I live here and I am connected to developmental disabilities by my son, And then you go in, the bulk of your message will be that heartfelt story. And about 30 seconds is your wrap up for a call to action. So after you tell the legislators what your concerns are, you want to give them something to do with it, right? So I'm asking you to XYZ.
And just remember, you might prepare a 3-minute presentation and all of a sudden the room has got more people than they do have time. And they're going to say, okay, we're going to limit everybody to a 1-minute presentation. Don't get flustered. Just do your introduction and do your summary and kind of just condense it all because this is not the last time you'll have an opportunity to speak to them. It's a way for them to put a face with a name. And again, if you've got a lot more to tell them, follow up with them afterwards, talk to their legislative aides, be able to meet
I'm
with them
signed
in their
up to,
local district offices, and you can end up, like, for instance, after Stephanie's meeting, they followed up and said, hey, we need some additional questions that you would
Wait,
like
wait,
to
wait,
ask.
wait. That's part of my super cool announcement. Hang on.
Sorry.
okay, well, that sounds great. And I'm supposed to be getting an appointment with the new rep also. So I knew her, she happened to come and we spoke for a half hour when she was door knocking when she was before the primaries. And so we have that connection already, but yeah, so, and then.
So remember, you're going to be an expert to them. They don't know the program like you do. They don't know the challenges. They don't
It's a
know
good
the
reminder.
benefits. And you can be able to end up not only just telling them your story, you can very well end up becoming one of their go-to experts that says, hey, this has come up before my desk, and what do you think? And that's when you've really built the trust. So not to steal your thunder, Stephanie, you want to go into your
No,
magical
I'm
moment?
not done yet.
Okay.
But I wanted to go back to Sandy. So a week or so ago, time is funny these weeks, Paul actually went to his first delegation at Manatee and spoke and said, I hope this is okay, Paul, said to me, you know, everybody was really stoic. I don't know if they cared or if they're listening. And this week he got 2 appointments with the people he spoke with. They called him and want to talk to him about what he brought up. So that's really with the delegations. I look at it as like a party icebreaker. Like, hi, I'm Sandy. Now you know my face. These, you know, and I want to continue to talk to you. And then, you know, that's when you start that relationship building piece. Um, but I wouldn't get hung up on that 2 to 3 minutes because like last year I went to Miami-Dade. I signed up to speak. I was told 3 minutes. It was my first, you know, round of doing these things. And because there was just so many people there, we had a minute. Um, and so it's all right to I would just have some, you know, basic bullet points you want to say, like 3 things that you want to get out, like who you are, how you're connected to this, and what your concern or challenges are, and let them know I want to follow up with you. I want to continue this conversation. You're like,
Should I highlight the successes that he's come that because
absolutely.
he would, and I feel, because the way I look at it and what's been forming in my head is that he was told there was a brick wall for him when he was a little baby, you know, when he was little, and said, you're never going to get past here. The brick wall's this tall, you're never going to. And we got past it and exceeded it. But now we feel like we're hitting a brick wall as he's becoming an adult. And now I'm trying to get through to figure out, because I'm not taking no for an answer. So we just don't take, that's just not how our family works. So
Yes, that is really important for legislators to hear the successes just as much as the challenges. No one wants to hear all the time, you know, that nothing's working because there are things that are working and you know the different milestones that our families go through present new wins and new opportunities. And that's a perfect message for legislators to hear because it's not linear. It's not like this one thing happens and all of a sudden, you know, you've got what you need, you're set, you're good to go. No one needs to pay. Like that's why this is a person-centered uh program.
okay.
So yeah, and really down brass tacks down to like the basics of what needs to be said is your truth, is your story. And there's no one has your story. It is completely uniquely yours. And so the main thing that you want to get out is that connection. This is my family. I'm never giving up on this kid. Um and that'll I mean that's really, really powerful.
Okay. Well,
So anybody else have delegation related questions or concerns? We have a list of the upcoming delegations on the Facebook page. But honestly, if you go to ARC Florida, and if you just even Google ARC Florida delegation, a list of the meetings has been put up there, and they do a really great job of making sure that you've got the suite number if there is one, the times, and how to sign up. So if you haven't been here, welcome, and you're looking for a delegation meeting, it's possible yours is still coming up. So I would go to ARC Florida. Do I have anybody that, oh, good, Dina, thank you. I was about to say, can anybody throw that in the chat? So if you go down to the chat, Dina just added their delegation calendar, and that'll give you a beat on delegations in your area. And that also shows you all the representatives in your county too. So when you look at those delegations, you'll get to see the people right there that you can reach out to separate and aside from delegation meetings. So delegation meetings are happening, and also this was the first week of committee weeks. Committees are a lot. And a really cool process that the legislators all break out into little small groups, and they cover different areas of topics of all the laws and all the issues across Florida. So there are a lot of committees, and people with developmental disabilities are, you know, that there's a lot of committees that oversee them too, beyond just health and human services. We had a pre-K through 12 subcommittee this week that talked about ESE students, and there was a housing component that was in a different subcommittee. All of these meetings are available for us to go and watch. It is thefloridachannel.org. Anybody wants to put that in the links, that would be great. These committee meetings are a way for our legislators to meet with the agency heads, like the APD or ACA, DCF, and ask them questions as they're building these bills and these policies. And it's a way for them to refine their priorities going into session. Because once March 4th starts, the bills have been filed and they start trying to get these laws into place. The committee weeks that's new to me. So does anyone have more experience than I do that would like to talk about committee weeks in session?
Alan,
He's driving.
Yes, no, I can talk though.
Okay.
These committee weeks, which by the way, you have them live Florida channel. You mentioned that, and if you just Google Florida channel, it'll pop up, and it normally takes them a couple days to put them on after the hearing happens, but you can watch it live. They have them all on live. It's really good. And for example, there were two committees. I would say the major theme this week that Melissa and myself and some of the legislators commented about was the Medicaid unwind, is them taking people off, DCF taking people off Medicaid, and basically messing things up for a lot of people. And so I filled out a card, Melissa filled out a card. You can fill out a card if you go up there, and they'll call on you to speak. So you can say, I'm very frustrated by this issue. And there were a number of issues this week, like you mentioned. In fact, one thing, there was one committee that talked about housing, and it talked about housing for heroes and the housing generally, affordable housing. But I was a little disappointed they didn't talk about people with disabilities in it. And so I'm going to go back to their director and in the chair and bring up the fact that disabilities always have to be included. You know, you talked about veterans, heroes, all this stuff, but you know, we don't want people with disabilities to be left out of the budget when you're preparing it and looking for more affordable housing. But it's educational in what they look for, and we won't be forgotten in the end. But there was also one on education that you talked about, where they talked a lot about autism. But the week before, they put out the agenda, so you know what's coming. and sometimes we can plan to get people up there. But it really gives you a chance, if you have something to say and the topic is on the agenda, to go up there. You fill out a card. You have to fill out a card, and they will call on you, and you can go up there and talk for a couple minutes about your issue, and they really do listen. And so these committee meetings now, it's not considered part of session, but they're using these committees to educate themselves so they can create a budget and pass laws during session, which would be March and April. Did you want anything else? Any other issues?
No, that was perfect. I caught the pre-K through 12 subcommittee that happened this week because it's related to something else that I'm doing. And what I found really like informationally important for myself was the legislators' response to when people came and spoke. So I put it on our Facebook page, and I'm going to try to do to put these things on YouTube as well so families can see. But Senator Jay Collins has a son with developmental disabilities. He spoke last year at Family Cafe. He's a huge champion for our topics and challenges, and you really get to get the inside track of where legislators are at in their education process too. You know, Senator Collins said something like, our greatest fear as parents is what's going to happen when we pass. And it was funny because I was talking to Paul at the same time that I was watching this, and he texted me and said, everybody talks about how this is their number one fear, but I don't hear a lot of people speaking of it. And then the senator did that, which was really, it's a great way to kind of get inside information just as a viewer, if you will. But on committee meetings, okay, so here it is. This is the big announcement that I'm so excited to share. We had the community forum where families came here in Collier and met with representatives about challenges that they had. And the next day, and this is what Tom was going into, Representative Mello had a meeting scheduled with Director Hatch with the Agency of Persons with Disabilities the following day or something. And she asked me to come up with some questions for the director that, that addresses things like accountability. And so I was able to do that. I sent that her way. I have not heard how that meeting went. So I'm still waiting on that. But the next day, I got an email from her aide and said, Representative Mello would like you to come to Tallahassee in February. They haven't gotten back to me on the specific date, but it's the second or the third week of February to present at the committee on the stories of the challenges that the families are facing. The director will be there. Also, other agency heads will be there. And so, oh my gosh, guys, that's a huge opportunity for us to really educate these folks. And so this is why I am begging. At this point, I am begging you to please send a 30-second to 1-minute video about your challenges. I'm going to put this in front of them and I want them to see all the different various things going on with their constituents, so that we can really go hard in the paint this year and help them form those bills. So yay, I'm wildly excited for this. I don't know how logistics are going to play out, but we'll figure that all out. So I have created, I was, the kids didn't sleep this week. And I found, I sat there and was like, how do I explain how to share your story in such a small amount of time? And so I made up this acronym, SHARE. So SHARE, S stands for storyline. You want to focus on the main event or challenge, what happened and why is it significant? H stands for heart. Share your emotions. How did it feel? Let your passion and your purpose shine through. A stands for action. What actions did you do or did others take? So if you could highlight steps or solution or efforts that you made trying to address the challenge. And then R, result. What was the outcome? Show the impact that it had on your life or the community. And E, empower. Leave a message of hope, inspiration, or a call to action. What do you want our legislators to know, feel, or do? And I'm going to put this out here. I'll send it to Melissa because she's really helping me with those emails. But I'll put it in the social media just to help kind of turn the wheels of how do we share all the things that go in our given day in 30 seconds, because I know that's a tough one. Also, if you're a rambler like I am, that's okay too, because I have this amazing editing software that where I can just really get to the point. I can cut out all the uhs and the ums, and I always try to make sure I have like a transcription. So if you have any sort of it'll just really help capture the message that you want to send. I will do all of that work. I'm happy to do it. However, I need content. I need people to send their stories so much. And we could really, really impact a great deal of legislators with this. And then therefore laws and therefore budgets, and just keep going until we get this thing so that we can all live meaningful lives. Tom, you're on mute.
Part of the most important part is putting a human face to it. You know, these are just lines on a budget, but when they hear these stories, it can very much haunt them or inspire them, or, you know, in case of maybe like Danny Perez, you know, the House Speaker. His family went through rough times too, and it's with ABD, and he, you know, he's becoming a champion. But you know what a champion needs? They need reinforcements. They need these stories. Last year, we had 150 one-page family stories, and it had a big impact. We're counting on, hoping for far more video presentations. For instance, at the specialized disability focused legislative delegation meeting that Stephanie created for Collier, which was absolutely amazing. I couldn't attend, but I recorded a 2.5 minute message that Stephanie edited into a really nice package. And although there wasn't time at the day of the presentation, the follow-up was Stephanie then spent the next couple of nights up all night editing all the comments into little package snippets that became 26 or 27 stories. And although I didn't get to the meeting, I got to the email that was sent out, and that email then ended up being forwarded out to things like regional operations managers and other folks to be able to see families are speaking up. The voices are starting to be heard. People are starting to pay attention. So now is a critical time. It doesn't take long. All I did was picked up my phone, talked into it a couple of times, gave it 2 or 3 run-throughs, sent it in, and it got edited out and came back looking very professional. Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome. And actually, I didn't do much editing with yours, so it was pretty easy. But I'm happy to do those things. And the other kind of unintentional side effect of our virtual presence here is that legislative form I looked at. I was going to try to look at it, but I can't do 2 things at once. There were like over 1,600 views of those stories. I had people people in the community who they've known me, but they don't really know what I do on Friday afternoons. And hearing them talk about, oh my goodness, I had no idea families were going through this. That's also just general community awareness. That the more
Yeah.
we get out there, the bigger, faster, stronger we can go with this. So if it seems like I haven't been begging for video stories, let me say it straight one more time. I am begging for video stories, and the way you can send it is pretty easy. I'm gonna put my email in the chat, and I'll also put my cell phone number. Sometimes it's just easy to take the video and text it. I prefer email if you can, but really we just want these stories. So send them in, and however, don't worry too much about details and perfection or any of that, because it's the human connection. Tom hit it on the nail. Okay, so the next thing that I want to get out, and then I kind of want to open the floor up because I hate when it's just me gabbing the whole time. I have asked Gabby and Nicole to come on today specifically because mission fulfilled here. Gabby has been trying to get help for a very long time. And Gabby and Nicole, I don't know how long it's been. I'll let you guys fill it in. Applied for the APD and got a lot of runaround. Applied through Crisis in October, and 15 days went, 60 days went, 80 days went, and still hadn't gotten help. So they went to our community forum and told their story to legislators, and we got really good news this week. So Nicole and Gabby, would you mind sharing with families so
Yes.
you hear from you? Thanks.
So yeah, we're refugees from California and we love Florida, but it is really hard, as you all know, to get any services. And honestly, ready to give up. When I tried for persons with disabilities and heard about the waiting list, and I had no idea what to do. So I went that route, and then you're looking at the face of my answered prayer, OGT right there. Mr. Tom, I was just, in my constant pursuit, turning over stone after stone. I got Tom's name and we connected, and then he has guided me through this process that takes a long time when you're a 365, 24/7 caregiver to, make it all happen, to get, you just have to have that mountain of paperwork to, present. It doesn't matter what you say. You have to have all the official documents and people with all the letters behind their name to tell you what you already know. And then as we find out, you have to keep telling them over and over again and keep jumping through hoops and hoops and hoops. But I kind of joke that Hurricane Helene made me sit down and write the letter and fill out the application. And then Milton came along so I could then respond to all the paperwork they wanted. My dining room tables, covers. I tried to get it all together. And yeah, so then just waiting. And then I just kept bugging them all the time. And finally they had the review Wednesday. And they didn't read, they said they left a message, they didn't. But anyway, so I finally called back and they said, yes, your crisis has been approved. So woohoo!
Yes.
Big hurdle.
Big hurdle. Let's talk about something in that mix that we want to try to address this year. You applied for October 1st. They asked for additional information, which you submitted on October 18th. You got a letter on the 22nd of October saying you are category 1 crises. Sounds like you've been approved. No, that just means that you're now category 1 on the wait list. And our intent was to expedite the crises timeline. And what it ended up doing is saying, well, the 15 days only was for us to determine if you were a crisis, not that we actually had to do anything beyond that. And so it took 91 days from the letter to the second letter saying you are actually approved off of the wait list to being approved and having now pick your support coordinator. That is what we were hoping, and we thought to some degree we had addressed last year, but clearly experience has proven that there's more detail legislatively that needs to be created to shorten the timeline, because when you finally get to the point that you apply for crises and it's now 3 more months and we still haven't seen any help, we've only seen paper, we need to figure out a way to really make this more humane, more responsive, and more timely. But
And then this is
congratulations, Gabe.
Well, thank you. And thank you for, I couldn't have done it without you and Stephanie. So, but then the thing is like, it's just now there's more hoops and hurdles. It's like, it seems like you have all the information. It's not changing, like you said, the form, you know, like, it's not like anybody's miraculously, you know, walking on water tomorrow. So why do we have to keep proving the same thing over and over and over and over again? Like, I mean, like, you know, we got the SANS and the AIMS and like, you know, all these acronyms. It's like, it's the
Well,
same.
that's what's gonna happen next.
Same person.
So what happens next is now then it's a QSI algorithm-based budget that is nowhere close to the medically necessary needs that are required. You have to go through that first. That takes 30 to 60 days. Then you have to apply for significant additional needs, which honestly submits the same exact paperwork that was submitted in October and again in January, and will be done again in March. And so part of this story is to put a human face, Gabby, mom, in a way that the legislatures can say, I can't imagine waiting that long, and how you're still able to do it. And so our hopes is to take these stories, create legislative language that expedites these processes, so there is a true recognition that a crisis is more like calling the fire department than just waiting.
Yeah, and I find it like I don't believe in the coincidence that you guys came and you had been connected with your representative and then you gave the update, and 3 or 4 days later, all of the sudden there were all of these wheels turning and emails being sent and people at work. um and that's my experience too. So last year my family was in crisis, or 2 years ago my family was in crisis, and we waited over a year, and I spent every extra piece of energy talking to my legislators to help make it so that people like Gabby don't go through what we went through. And that was it. That's incredible progress that, we got through 90 days. I waited a year, but we were under the impression it was going to be 15. So like Tom said, devil's in the details, and we have to just keep pressing into that, keep building on these issues. And I know for a lot of families this week, I've gotten a ton of calls about the amount, what I forgot what you said, but just like, and then we have to qualify again and submit this paperwork and do that, and that the toll on the families, we all know it here. But that is just an unbelievable amount of unnecessary stress. So we'll just keep continuing to improve. And the one thing I want to say, because I've had this feedback a lot, is that it takes so long. It's like we're all barely hanging on. And, it seems like I think Melissa talked about it at the forum, that they have process worshiping, where they just are so used to and they like the process that things take. And I thought it was pretty quick and witty. Our Senator Pasadomo came back and said, "Yep, that's government." And in a sense, that's true. But we have shown that by educating them and letting them know the solutions and ways that they can rework and rethink things that are working and how to work it better, that's how we move the needle with them. And I really, I feel like there is an opportunity, not just with our legislators. I don't always want to go to the boss and tattle, right? Like, I think we have a golden opportunity right now with these agencies to collaborate, to let them know and to educate them that we're informed. And that's really at least my intention and hope for Florida is that if we're all in this together, then we can get this done, and it won't be, you know, decades and decades. When Tom and his daughter got onto the waiver, there wasn't such a thing. And him and a bunch of families, and 30 years ago, they've experienced what this program can be at its intention, and this has been done before, so it can be done again. And with that, I want to let looks like we got a hand raised. So yeah, let's do this the school way, and raise your hand if you want to talk. But please talk, because I want to hear from you. I miss you guys. Hey, Daniel.
I want to let you know, I was a year and a half in crisis 2 years ago.
4 years ago.
2 years ago, in crisis, I couldn't get no one to care for me. And now I have my waiver program. It's excellent.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And I wanted to let you know, I'm going to do another video for you about my dental problem. I'm going to do another video for you guys about my dental problem.
Your
You,
dental problem. So last
yeah.
week, Daniel had talked about how he can't get access to basic dental care. And gosh, Daniel, and I know last week you were like, you sent me an email and you said, Steph, I just want to know that I'm not alone. So is there anyone on this call that can identify with Daniel's challenges and could speak to that?
Question.
Yeah.
Like with Medicaid, when I was on the phone with Medicaid management, they said that something requires anybody getting Medicaid to also have dental coverage. And there's the 3 Medicaid dental plans, DentaQuest, Liberty, and the other one I can't remember. So like it's available. So my question for Daniel is, A, are you on Medicaid?
Yeah.
And through Medicaid, you then should have dental coverage. Did you know that?
But I have nobody that wants to work with me in my wheelchair. You understand? I've been going to 8 or 9 dental offices. There's no one that want me to get out of my wheelchair, which is impossible for me to get out of my wheelchair.
So are you saying that you're not finding any dentist who's willing, even though you may have coverage, you're not finding? Because I had that with my son. Oh yeah, he won't sit down, or he won't do what I tell him to. I'm like, yeah, get over it and do your job. And so is that the problem? Because if I could make a recommendation that I would know for a fact somebody, I don't know if they're local to you, but anyone here who went to Family Cafe last year, one of the Medicaid dental organizations was there, and they were doing oral checkups.
Oh, yeah.
And having said that, you know that their network understands our peers and would be happy to take care of you, would be ecstatic. I mean, to have that also DentaQuest was at healthy athletes doing dental checks during Special Olympic state competitions. So when you've got, I think it was Liberty that was a family cafe. I mean, there's two organizations that would definitely have doctors in the network who would be like thrilled to have you as a customer. And I want to tell you how excited it is, because I took several of my Special Olympics athletes, I'm a coach, two healthy athletes with an underlying knowledge that their parents weren't going to take their bad teeth report any further. So I think it's great. And if I can help by giving you numbers or helping you look up your coverage or whatever, please let me know, because they're out there. Some of the private dentists that you have, they're just too full of themselves to want to like not have to deal with a little soldier.
Sue, could you put your email in the chat so that you guys, because I think that's a fabulous connection. Melissa was up in Tallahassee this week, and I know I don't know if she's able to speak, but she was actually at a Senate health meeting, and the topic of the subject was dental. So this is a very like, Daniel, I want you to hear that I get phone calls and messages every day, all day, about the lack of providers, the crisis that is for dental providers that accept Medicaid. And there's also a little bit of a overlap of coverage, which is causing confusion. So the Medicaid, ACA, covers Medicaid dental, like, getting your if you need sedation or healthcare screenings, and so does APD. And so legislators were asking the agency heads this week, like, so I see here that the average bill is $754, and who's paying for what, and is that part of the issue? And like, there's a lot of confusion even within the agencies on who's on first base, and so it's stories like Daniel's, it's stories like Sue. Those are things that they are already talking about in committee meetings, and they need to understand what it's like. And I saw in the chat that Paul had said that the problem is there's no chair transfer. That's like a super basic supposedly available service through your waiver program, through Medicaid benefits. And I think that if you and Sue could get together to see who she's got up there, and you're in Miami-Dade, that happens to be where Danny Perez, our House Speaker, the guy who's the top of the food chain when it comes to helping Floridians this year.
I wanted to talk with Danny about this. I'm going to try to reassure them.
So here's what we can do super quickly, is you could put together your story. I have a little bit of it. I can help you with that. And then we can send that to Danny. Danny actually was on this meeting last year, and I have friends over in Miami who have needed his help with what they're walking through. He is a very, very attentive legislator. So if we could get that in the right hands, and in the meantime, see if Sue's got some connections. This is a huge need, and
Thank you.
you're welcome. And I want other families who might think that they don't have something to say, that we all do. We all have something to say, and Daniel's a perfect example of that, because this is a systemic issue. This is huge. There's literally nowhere you can go on my coast. We would have to go to, I think, Tampa or Orlando for dental care as adults here, which is really difficult. Melissa, you're here. Okay, good.
Hi, yes. I've been listening. I had other stuff I'm trying to do. I'm multitasking. But I've taken a couple of notes, and as far as like the the providers. I mean, there's issues with that across the board. And I was listening before to Gabriella, and I'm glad that you're on the waiver. Tom, there was a couple things that you said regarding the algorithm and then the SANs and all of that stuff and the budget. Anyway, your support coordinator would be the knowledgeable one regarding that, but there's an issue with providers. There's an issue with a lack of providers. There's an issue with the providers. So that's an issue. I'm glad that you're on the waiver now. And then if you want to get on CDC, the process for that, it's just another process. It's a lot of processes that are going on. And right now, our big fire is, of course, it's Medicaid. And that was what I was saying to the Senate staff and the House staff. And Stephanie, you had talked about Mello's aide reaching out to you, I guess probably Katya. I saw them up there. I also saw Mello, and I met with a number of people outside of the committee meetings. And when you're coming back up for that committee meeting in February, which we are not sure exactly when that's going to be, but they had asked me to also come up as well, like for a committee meeting. And I think that they would like to have some other people there. I would love to see some people there. And also I would really like to see, sorry, I'm like putting on my video now. I'd really like to see if anybody is around, like for Collier County, I'm sorry, Charlotte County, that's on the 29th over here, and Brevard is on the 28th. If anybody's on, that's on that side of the state. Randy Fine is sitting on that committee in Brevard, and so is Chase Tremont. And Chase Tremont has a couple of children with developmental disabilities, and the committee at the House that at the House, and he's very interested. So it's, if we can have some folks that are able to go to Brevard and
I'm in
speak.
Brevard, just so.
Oh, good. Hi, Sue. Yeah, if you're able to go and speak, like Chase Tremont heard me get up and say about the Medicaid fiasco and stuff in the House. Randy Fine was not at that he's not on that committee, but he is somebody that helped to push through some money this past session for to get siblings on the waiver program that already had siblings that were on the waiver program. So that was something that was important to him as well. So definitely have gotten interest from a lot of the legislators, and they're wanting to have solutions, but the agency heads of APD and DCF and all those guys and their processes and and the stories that you hear of prolonging services and help and the frustration and the brick walls and all these things that are happening, we need to
Amplify
to
and echo.
Yeah, definitely. And when they see, when they see like me getting up there and that, like an Alan gets up there and stuff, I mean, we're providers and, obviously we care a lot about the folks that we serve. But like Tom was saying, putting that human voice, that story, and when they see people sitting there and they, like at the Sarasota delegation, we had a good amount of folks that showed up. I think it was
60.
over 60 that were there, and they see that it's an issue that matters. And then also at the Manatee delegation, I'm really glad that that a couple of the delegates have reached out to Paul and now have time scheduled with you. That was, we didn't have a lot of people there, but we had Kelly, I got up, Kelly Askered got up, Oscar de Rojas got up, Paul got up, and they heard from several of us. It was different things and it was all equally important. And so it's just, they are showing their interest. And before, when I was just walking into our office, I ran into Senator Gruder's aide, and Senator Gruder's is also on the Senate committee, but wasn't there on Wednesday. So next time he'll be there, and like, momentum is growing and stuff, which is good, but there is work to be done. And I know that there are people that are concerned about the incoming administration. And I think that we can use that to our advantage. I think that one of the things about our new administration is that they want to see efficiency and effectiveness, and they want to see money not being wasted. And right here, I want to show you guys something. And this is something that I showed the Senate when I was up there. I was like, this right here is fair hearing requests that my agency has filed for Medicaid for people. That's 41 of them. And look, here, I'm opening up fair hearing requests right now. That's how we are spending. Even if you could care less about people with developmental disabilities, you don't care about them at all. They should care about the money that's going into.
Exactly.
This is obscene. It's ridiculous. It's a small amount of folks that we have in one state agency, and we're wasting money and time and whatever on this when it's costing us more for the process than it is to just help the folks out. So, we can, there's so many good things that can happen, but also the providers, the lack of good providers. And that's something that Alan has some language that the Senate put up last year. I've talked about it at a couple of the delegations. I'm going to continue to elevate it, but Alan has a clever name for it. It's money to assure that there's no wait list after you get off of the wait list. So it's to help develop providers, but we want good quality providers. And Sue Gottsman is on there's a new not-for-profit that's being formed that she's a part of to help with making sure that providers have quality training and stuff like that. So not just, hey, I want to, be a provider on this program, and APD's like, okay, can you pass a background check? Yeah, but that's about it. Great, you're hired. And they push them through, and you have these providers that have no idea of anything about folks with developmental disabilities, and there is definitely some sensitivity training that needs to happen. There's just educational stuff in general, and to build a good provider network, you have to also support those quality providers that are really working hard to try to get good people in, and they want to have mentor programs with them, and they really want to see quality services being provided so that people with developmental disabilities can actually live a not just have like your basic health and safety needs met, but to actually have like that true, community integration and actual like satisfaction and happiness in your life. And it's completely possible because I work with a number of people that we've been able to make that happen for over the years. But I think that APD has really gotten away from what it means to have good quality providers. And I know that it's completely possible, but that money will help with doing that. So ending the Medicaid garbage and the amount of fair hearing requests and stuff that are being done to try to reinstate Medicaid for people on the iBudget waiver, and the money, and also making sure that those legislators understand there's a difference between just a general disability and a developmental one, and the only folks that APD serves are people with developmental disabilities. So there's a dedicated state agency just to that segment of the disability population. And I think like helping, I did a Zoom like in December or something, and we had quite a few people on, and I was talking about that distinction between just a general disability and a developmental one. I had several families that contacted me after that said that they didn't even realize that, and they have a child with a developmental disability. They didn't realize that there was this actual like kind of a small subset of the overall general disability population. And if a family member, or in this case 3, didn't even realize that, then I have to give the legislators some grace that they might not really realize that either. So that's where, like we've got to educate and find those ones that have the heart to help and the ones that are on the right committees. That's very important too. But even if you have legislators in your area that are not on the committees, if you just become familiar with them, then talk to those people that are on the committees. Their
Oh.
job is to serve their constituents. Their job is to try to make things better in their communities, and that's where we've got to help educate them.
And that's one of the key things
You're
that we've done
such an
is work
awesome
on.
Oh, sorry.
I said,
We've
that's one of the most key things that we've been working on is recognition of constituent services. Your local representative is also there representing you in government. And one of their primary responsibilities is to assist their constituents that government works for them, not against them. The information that Melissa, you've conveyed, and one of the things that you and I have in common is we've been here since the start. So we've seen this gone from a much kinder, friendlier one to a very difficult situation. I mean, I just go back to Gabby and 91 days between the time you call for a crisis to getting anything. And after 15 days, you get a letter saying you're in, thinking you're in, but you're not. We have to educate people about it, create the awareness of it. Again, I will emphasize what Stephanie's been saying. Your 30-second to a minute snippet can be so powerful. It can change people's minds. It can open their eyes. It can open their hearts, and it can create the legislative momentum that we need to pick up from where we were last year and get even further than we were. We want to make a crisis be seen really for what it is, an emergency, an immediate, a now situation, not wait. We'll send you a letter that you think is the right letter, but no, wait. So with that in mind, I know it's Friday. I know, Stephanie, you probably have some closing comments.
Well, I do want to let people know it's 4 o'clock, and if you want to get off the call, we love you. We're so happy that you're here. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about what Melissa touched on at the end, who's on these committees and why that's important. And as soon as I know what committee that we are going to, because Melissa got a similar email that we're going to speak at, I will let you all know. And those stories do take a minute to edit. So if you could get those in ASAP, I want your best self to be represented. And please tell your friends because there's just so many. We have 1,000 members now in our Facebook. Oh yeah, we hit that milestone this week. 1,000 members in our Facebook group. I know we have people who aren't on Facebook that are in our email group, and we represent a fraction of families in the state, and we're speaking for them too. So with all that, I will let the meeting adjourn, I suppose. But I see Melody has patiently been sitting there with her little hand raised, and I think I saw in the chat somebody else had a question and their hand thing doesn't work. And so at this point, meeting over, let's just regularly talk. I have about 15 minutes till my next meeting, but we can gap, and I'm gonna turn off our recording. So if you're feeling cut off and disconnected, come join us next Friday. Okay.
Can we hear from Melanie?